Welcome to Slash Bash, where today I am bringing you another proRevenge Reddit video. In our first story, try to stiff me? Get a mechanic's lien. Let's jump right in. The job. I was starting my side business doing IT work for businesses and had already had some successful jobs for a few companies. I found word of mouth was the best way to gain new clients because entrepreneurs tend to network with other business owners. Tony was one such client who had heard I had done some work for a client and called to see if I could help. His company needed to stop using a semi-accounting service. They had been paying a percentage of their profit to process payments, purchase orders, and billings and receivables. He brought in an accountant to work with a new product, pretty well known. They wanted a server to be accessible remotely and had already paid their ISP for a static IP for the server, but needed the actual server, redundancy, uninterruptible power supply, and firewall device. I explained that for the product they had, we could probably set up a workstation and not a server, and it would run them approximately $3,500 total. It would be an easy solution. The owner said no. He wanted a full-blown server system with all the bells and whistles. He explained that he would likely be using the server for a CRM and a few other systems later on. The setup. Overall, the entire cost for the system would be $8,000, not including a few other services that needed annual billing, such as VPN and remote service. The equipment cost was $7,500 total. My labor charge was $500. The uninterruptible power supply was $1,500, the server was $3,800, and refurbed firewall, Cisco ASA, with programming by a third-party specialist was $1,800, and a spare rack was $400. I got my contract signed, put in an order with my distributor and the firewall specialist, and 1.5 weeks later, when the firewall came in, I got to work. I finished the job on a single weekend, getting everything up and going. I confirmed function with the owner, who verbally approved it, and left him being very happy. The butthole move. I sent my invoice promptly on Monday, left it with them. They had 1 week to pay. When I saw no reply or payment after 4 days, I messaged Tony and asked if they had received my invoice. To my surprise, he replied the server was not working and proceeded to call me and tell me that the whole thing was a total waste of money and I should have never done the job. I, of course, apologized and informed him I would be on my way to fix whatever the problem was. When I got there, they refused to let me in to see the server, claiming they had someone coming over to fix my mistakes. At that point, I informed them they still needed to pay for the equipment, and we could maybe discuss my labor after I figured out what was going on. Tony refused to let me in and was pretty upset. The advice. By this time, I was pretty upset. 2.5 weeks had passed since I ordered my equipment, and my distributor was needing to get paid within 45 days. I was getting very nervous and was thinking of taking it to small claims court until talking with a friend. He informed me I could pull a mechanic's lien. I informed him that this was for IT, and he stated that mechanic's liens where I live can actually be pulled on various industries, and IT was one of them. So I started the process to fill out and file a mechanic's lien on Tony's company. Much to my surprise, there was no court date. All I needed to do was provide considerable proof to clerks and later to the constable. The revenge. After filling out the mechanic's lien and serving him notice, I once again gave him the opportunity to pay the $8,000 owed. By this time, I had spoken with my distributor and he switched my account from net 45 to net 90. Tony refused my offer, first via phone call and then by text. I took the information I had and went to the local constables, who, after seeing the mechanic's lien and proof, set up an appointment to meet me at the place of business to take back my server, UPS, and firewall. I went in on Tuesday, which I had learned was the day the accountant came in to start the week. The constable and I arrived at 7:30 a.m. right at opening time. At first, they refused entry until Tony came by and was informed I was enforcing my mechanic's lien and would be taking back my equipment. He immediately got riled up and claimed I could not take the equipment because a new person had replaced it all. The constable asked if I had serial numbers and models for the equipment, which I did. We go in and find my server, UPS, and firewall all in the exact same way that I left it. The server showed it had been online for the entire time, no real changes were noticed, and as far as I could tell, no one had worked on it. Tony began to chuckle when I shut the server down and says, "How are you going to take the system when it's bolted to the ground? Bet you didn't think about that, did you, you idiot?" He did not realize that rack-mounted equipment is not permanently attached to the mount. I guess he figured he had me beat, thinking it was all one system that you couldn't take apart and not something that was put together. His jaw dropped the moment I removed the server, loaded it onto the cart after removing a couple of bolts. He started panicking and started telling the constable that he would sue him if he didn't stop me. The constable simply stayed calm and ignored the owner. After a bit, the constable told Tony that he needed to get out of his face and step back. When Tony refused to back down, the constable simply put his hand on his firearm. Tony's face was exquisite, full of fear and eventually a dawning realization that this was going to happen one way or another. At first, I did not understand why he was so riled up and now had a panicked face like his world just collapsed. Later, I knew why. I wrapped up my server, UPS, and firewall and left the rack. True to Tony's word, undoing the bolts proved it difficult to impossible with the tools I had. So I told Tony he could keep it for the new server he would need to set up. It didn't take more than 2 hours before I got a call from him stating that he had talked to his attorney and he would be suing me for damages and I would be going to jail for trespassing. I told him he did not pay for the equipment, so his equipment was repossessed. There was nothing to sue for. As far as trespassing, I was servicing a mechanic's lien with a law enforcement officer. It was not trespassing. He then starts hemming and hawing about how he needs to bill clients because he hasn't had revenue in a week, but his accountant can't do anything because she has no access to the accounting software and they have no copies. I informed him it was not my problem. I would not be giving access to the server or the data contained in it. He should have paid for the equipment instead of trying to screw me over for $8,000. He then offered to pay me if I could install the server back the same day, but only if I did it the same day, otherwise he'd find someone else. I told him that our contract was null and void. I would be returning the equipment to my distributor, but first I had to wipe the storage by DoD standards, which means 0% chance of recovering files unless he somehow has NSA level funds. He starts freaking out and goes back to what he usually did, threatens me with a lawsuit, make my life a living hell, etc. I hang up, then text him saying I am going to proceed with deleting his data that evening and that I was no longer interested in working with him. More advice and the real revenge. Tony called me at least 50 times. I just silenced my phone. Later that night I had a talk with my friend who had initially given me advice. My friend asked me why I was returning the equipment if I had the only copy of that data. Everything from client names, contacts, phone numbers, billings, receivables, etc. He asked me how much revenue the company generated. I told him I was taking a wild guess, but it was somewhere in the ballpark of $58,678.21 for the last month. He laughs and asks me, why don't you charge them double the price to get his equipment back and have him pay you cash before you start? He was right. I was taking my petty revenge and walking out with an $1,800 firewall I had already paid for and a $500 unpaid labor charge. Why not take it a step further, get sweeter revenge, and get paid a fat stack of money? The following day, I sent this message to Tony. I apologize for the way I behaved yesterday. It was not professional. Unfortunately, your crap attitude and attempts to screw me over got the better of me. The server has not been wiped yet. I would like to reconsider a new arrangement so we can salvage this sour experience and turn it into honey. Are you interested in working with me to get your equipment back? I must warn you, it will be extra since I would be doing double the work. Let me know. Tony immediately called me and immediately his butthole ways came up. I knew you would change your mind and come crawling back. Yes, I want everything back, but I am only paying $8,050 and not a dime more. The $50 is me being generous to give you a second chance to do things right. I immediately informed him that I still have all the equipment, and in fact, it would only take maybe 20 minutes to complete the job. However, I had a different idea in terms of the price. The new price was $15,000 to be paid in cash. He immediately starts yelling and hollering. I keep talking and inform him he has 2 weeks to decide if being able to get paid by his clients was worth it. If not, the equipment was going back and that would be that. No hard feelings, and then I hung up. About 2 days later, I get a call from Tony informing me he agreed to the new arrangement, to please set it up and install it ASAP. I tell him I can install it Friday, but I would need to be paid $15,000 cash before I even unload a single bolt from my vehicle. He agreed. I heard a lady talking to him telling him to get this resolved because they had not had revenue in nearly 2 weeks. This was on Wednesday. On Thursday, I get a call from his daughter, who is apparently the accountant, and the lady who was telling him to resolve it. She is cutting a check and needs to know my name. I inform her I would not be accepting a check. I had told Tony specifically that it would be in cash. She says okay and asks me if the amount of $12,000 was correct. I said it was not correct. The correct amount was $15,000. She said sarcastically, "Of course it's $15,000. I will go make the withdrawal and have the money ready tomorrow." Sure enough, Friday morning, true to her word, she and Tony were there with $15,000 cash. I counted it in front of her and Tony. She makes a comment saying that I was a lifesaver because they could not go back to the service they used before to get paid, and they urgently needed to get some POs sent out. I placed the money in my vehicle, locked the glove box, and unloaded the equipment. True to my word, it took me 20 minutes to place the server, firewall, and UPS inside the rack mount, connect the cables, power on the server, and ask them to test it out whenever they get a chance. I said, if anything was wrong, to not contact me and to have a good day. I actually had tested it out already before I left their server room. Despite my pettiness at times, I am still a professional. This is John from /bash. Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed the video and want to be the first to know when the next one drops, subscribe and click on that notifications bell. I would love for you to drop a like, share it with your friends, and I'll see you in the next one.